Hi, Fraser. Okay, so I'm going to go over number 7 first, because I think that one's the quickest. All right, so I've seen 2 different ways to do number 7. You've got this crazy pulley system where you've got a box on the table, and then a box hanging from this side, and then a box hanging from this side. All right? And you're told that the whole thing accelerates at 0.5 meters per second squared. All right? So, option 1 is to make a separate free body diagram for each of the objects. Okay? And then work backwards and figure out the force of friction on the middle block. All right? But the problem with that is if you do that, there are 3 unknown forces. So you need to set up a system of equations. You come up with one equation that comes from this mass, one equation that comes from this mass, and one equation that comes from this mass to solve for those 3 unknown forces, right? So what are the 3 unknown forces? Well, friction between the block and then the 2 tension forces, right? So you can do it that way and it works, but as Jake will tell you, it's kind of a pain in the butt, okay? So, as I've said, I think a couple times, I really think that most of these problems are easiest if you start by looking at the system as a whole. All right? So if we look at the system as a whole, when I say the system as a whole, I mean all 3 masses. All right? So what forces are going to affect the motion? Well, let's do this. Let me ask you a different question. What are the external forces on the system? Well, there's gravity pulling this guy down, right? So that's going to have a force of 2 mg. There's gravity pulling this guy down, which is going to be just m times g. Good. We don't need to worry about gravity or normal force here, so I'm going to draw those in green. 2 mg and 2 mg. Those guys cancel out, right? All right. So, and then there's only one other external force, which is friction, right? So without friction, which way would my system move, you guys? To the right. So let's do this. Let's call this way positive and this way negative. Good? Everybody set? All right, and we're missing one force. Which direction will that unknown force of friction act in a positive or a negative direction? Negative direction. It's going to resist the whole system from sliding to the right. So you've also got this force of friction kinetic, right? Follow? So are there any questions on what I've got there? All right. So I know the acceleration, and I know all of my forces except friction. So solve for the unknown force. I think at this point we can do net force equals net force. So, I don't have enough room. Ooh, I'm going to shrink all this to get some room. All right. Let me pause. Did I do anything too quick there? Is everybody set? Okay, cool. So net force equals net force. Let's see. Net force equals net force. So for us, mass times acceleration. So Zach, what's the mass?
5m.
5m, right? M plus 2m plus m. So 5m times my acceleration of 0.5, right? Equals, you guys good back there?
Distract us from our learning.
All right. So equals our total force, which is 2 mg minus mg minus our force of kinetic friction, right? Follow? So you get 2.5 m minus, let's see, this is just mg, no, equals mg minus ffk. So your force of friction kinetic ends up being mg minus 2.5 m, right? And since g is 9.8, you get that your force of kinetic friction is 9.8 minus 2.5 is what, 7.3 m? Too quick? All right. And then my normal force is 2 mg. So my coefficient of friction should be force of kinetic friction over normal force, which is 7.3 m over 2 times 9.8 is 19.6 m. And that gives you your answer.
Oh, we don't know. So we're trying to figure out what the coefficient is.
Yeah, that was what the problem one is. Fine. Good, you guys, or no? Everybody's happy? All right, should we do the dreaded number 4?
Yeah.
Got a question?
Yeah, what happened to that?
mg is,
I saw.
the g is 9.8, so I did 2 times 9.8. Everybody good? Matt, you good over there? Did you end up figuring that one out?
Yeah, I figured this one.
Yeah? Cool. I don't know, it's on the answer key. What's the answer, you guys?
0.37.
0.37? Cool.